Ryan Poles just wrapped up from Indianapolis as he held his annual NFL Combine press conference. I got instant reaction and 5 primary takeaways from that presser coming up here in just a moment. Welcome to Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. And listen, we got a full week of content coming your way from the NFL Combine. Chat Sports has boots on the ground. We will be able to carry the Ben Johnson press conference on our afternoon show. We'll have that filmed down in Indy, so be on the lookout for that. We'll have reactions from what the new head coach has to say as well. So hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. Tons of coverage from Indy coming your way, starting right now. All right, let's jump right in here. Ryan Poles, of course, was hit with a lot of offseason questions. What are you going to do in free agency? And he had a pretty simple, but I thought, mostly direct answer to what their approach to free agency is going to be. And I thought he said something interesting at the beginning of this quote. Quote, with a clearer vision, the more aggressive you can be. He did kind of allude to still wanting to be selective, which is something he's always said, because you don't want to overpay on a guy just because you need that position and it doesn't work out. Nate Davis. But he did say if guys check most boxes, those will be players that they target. And to me, that first sentence, a clearer vision, the more aggressive you can be, that kind of goes to the word that we've talked about for years that this team and specifically the offense has lacked, identity. I think Ben Johnson and his staff are going to bring and are already bringing a clearer identity. To me, he's kind of telling you, like, yeah, we feel more confident about the type of team and we want to be and the type of players we want to add to be that type of team. I expect the Bears to take more swings in free agency this year. I think you're going to see them be aggressive, not reckless, but aggressive in terms of bringing in the type of player to help this football team right here, right now. These are some names that have been out there, some names we've talked about. Certainly going to be others, but, I think the Trey Smith, Drew Dahlman combination is going to be a possibility. We'll talk about Trey Smith in a second. Chase Young with the Dennis Allen connection. I think that's going to be a player they potentially look into. Maybe Khalil Mack as well. Josh Sweat is another possibility. Certainly plenty others. Kevin Zeitler due to the Ben Johnson connection, and I'm sure dozens more. But I don't think the Bears are going to hesitate to sign guys that could cost a pretty penny if, like he said, they check the boxes of what they are looking for. Speaking of Trey Smith, he mostly dodged the question. And look, he can't go out there and get into specifics about a player not on the roster. He's actually not allowed to do that. But Greg Bragg, shout out to him, King of Bears Twitter, asked him the question of basically, hey, when you guys drafted Trey Smith, what was your evaluation? And he said, quote, I'm not going to get into players who aren't on our roster right now, but I was proud to be part of that draft process. Again, he's not allowed to be like, yeah, we're going to sign Trey Smith or try to, but I do think he's kind of acknowledging, like, yeah, we like the player. We got really good value when he fell to us in the 6th round in Kansas City. Remember, he was supposed to be a day 2 guy, but a heart thing popped up, and it hasn't been an issue at all in the NFL. Has played 4 healthy seasons. I'd be shocked if they didn't pursue him. I'd be shocked. Now, do the Chiefs get a deal done before free agency? Certainly possible. Do they change their mind and franchise tag him? Certainly possible. But if the legal tampering period begins and Trey Smith has not been re-signed or tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs, I would expect the Bears to be on the horn early in making a strong offer. That is what I think is going to happen. So predict it. Will Trey Smith be a Bear? Type Y for yes, he will. Type N for no, he won't. If he hits the open market, I think it's greater than 50-50. Obviously, if he doesn't, he doesn't. But I think there's a pretty decent chance here as we're just under 2 weeks out. Okay, I think this is pretty interesting. Competition for Braxton Jones. I mean, straight from the horse's mouth. Aaron Leming kind of did a good job of just kind of paraphrasing here what Poles broke down here. He was asked about his recovery status, says he's on schedule in his rehab, but said, I can't remember the direct quote, but it was like, we'll see how he comes out on the other side. Obviously, leg, ankle injury, big guys, you never know. But then he, unprompted, said that'll be a position where there's competition. Obviously, Leming adds there the interior guys, which we've talked about, both guard spots and center. But we shouldn't rule out left tackle, which is something, we've talked about here as well, that while I'd be comfortable assuming Braxton Jones, health-wise, checks those boxes and is ready to go with him and Darnell Wright at the tackle positions. But if you feel strongly about a left tackle or if you want to bring in competition, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. And there's different ways you can bring in competition. I think guys in that number 10 pick range are as follows: Will Campbell out of LSU, Kelvin Banks out of Texas, Armand Mimbo out of Missouri, who most would say is a right tackle or guard option. I'd love to know what Poles' evaluation of him is overall, and could he kick out to left tackle? I'm skeptical that he can. He's just under 6'4", so he's already a little shorter from the tackle standpoint of things. But he has plenty long arms, and his tape is excellent. So, maybe they'd view him as a guy that could compete at left tackle, then start at guard or something like that. So keep an eye on him. I think trade down or day 2 guys, Simmons could be in range at 10 as well, but coming off that knee surgery, that feels a little rich for me. Maybe you trade down later in the teens to get him, or early 20s. Josh Connerly, he's probably a late round 1, early round 2 guy. If he fell to 39, it would be tremendous. Ariante Ursary, 39-41, or maybe a day 2 trade down. A few more guys to keep in mind that could be competition at left tackle. Obviously, you have Karan Amagaji currently on the roster. They did draft him in the 3rd round last year. No idea what Ben Johnson's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, evaluation of him is. I hope someone asks him at his press later today, which, again, we will bring to you guys here on the show, so subscribe and stay tuned. But is Amagaji a realistic option, or is he kind of just a backup that needs a lot of developing? I would guess more of the latter, but you always let guys compete. You never know. So he is a name. And then, free agents. I don't think when he says competition, they're going to pay Ronnie Stanley or Alaric Jackson big money. But, is there a low-level starter, swing tackle guy that you bring in as insurance / competition for Braxton Jones? That could certainly happen. Is there a 1-year option for a vet that's out there? Certainly could be the case. So keep an eye on that. I think that was an interesting comment by Poles, one that stood out to me for sure. A couple more takeaways to get to, but we got some FGB t-shirts in stock, plenty available. If you want to order and purchase one today, use our link below to get that, chatsports.com/FGB. They're available for purchase right now, chatsports.com/FGB, link in the comments and description. He did explain why DeMarcus Walker and Gerald Everett were cut. I think the Everett one's pretty self-explanatory. He was just horrible last year, to say the least. But he basically said, new coaching staff, there were scheme question marks. Like, are they going to fit in? Quote, gray in terms of fit with the scheme change. So, I think the Everett thing was, unless Ben Johnson came in and felt like he could rediscover what Everett was before this year in Chicago, that was an easy cut to say $5.5 million. And then DeMarcus Walker, which I was kind of like either way. I think as a rotation guy, I like him, but to me that's probably a Dennis Allen cut. Dennis Allen, when they were reviewing the roster price, said, I don't have a clear vision for what he is in my defense. Let's just save the $5.3 million and go elsewhere. We did a video yesterday, talked about some free agent edge rushers they could look to target to upgrade from DeMarcus Walker. So I would certainly think the Bears do that. Ryan Poles kind of alluded to that as well. And look, when you bring in a new coaching staff, role players become expendable. That's just the reality. Whether they're cap casualties or just guys that they don't think fit, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to have to earn roster spots. Think of the Tyler Scotts of the world. Like, maybe he'll be someone that fits in with what Ben Johnson wants to do. Maybe he won't, and if he doesn't, he'll probably get cut. So, I think a guy like him, you let him get into training camp because he doesn't cost you any money, but just an example of someone to keep an eye on over the next several months. Okay, and then lastly, not that I would expect anything different, but he certainly raved about Ben Johnson as he comes in and gets rolling here as the Bears head coach. He said, quote, his football IQ is on a totally different level from what I've seen and what we've been used to. He talked about the collaborative efforts they've already gone through in terms of evaluating the roster and looking ahead to free agency and the draft and all that stuff. I do get the sense that he and his staff, and I think you're already seeing it with some of these cuts, are going to have more roster input than the prior staff did. I think that's probably part of how you got Ben Johnson. I don't think it was giving him roster control, but he has a seat at the table. And I'm not saying Matt Eberflus didn't evaluate free agents and draft guys at all and have input. I think Ben and Dennis Allen, these guys are going to have more. That's my opinion. Over time, whether we find out, pie chart percentages or whatever the case may be, who knows? But it does seem like Ben Johnson has a strong voice in terms of the guys that they are going to bring in. And I think he should, because you need more assistance because there's been too many misses, to be frank. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Chicago Bears Now. Plenty to come. At least one more video where we react to Ben Johnson's press conference, maybe a third video as well, depending on how the day goes, the news cycle flows. Plenty of stuff flowing out. You already saw Jonathan Allen being allowed to seek a trade in Washington. We might talk about that at some point. So plenty to come for you guys. So lock us in, subscribe, turn on the notifications. We'll see you soon. Bear down.